You like to believe you are in control of how you feel, that emotions rise because of reasons, that sadness comes from events, that anger comes from injustice, that fear comes from danger. But most of the time, none of that is true. Because by the time you notice an emotion, it has already been decided. Long before logic arrives, long before words form, long before you say, "Why am I feeling this way?" Your subconscious has already spoken. Picture your mind as an iceberg. The part above water, small, visible, sharp, is your conscious mind. It plans, it reasons, it explains, it justifies. But beneath the surface lies something vast, silent, heavy, ancient. That is your subconscious, and it controls far more than you've been taught to admit. Your conscious mind likes to think it is the driver, but most days it is the passenger. Looking out the window, making sense of a route it never chose. You think you decided to feel insecure today. You think you chose to feel anxious in that conversation. You think your sadness appeared because of something that happened this morning. But emotions do not begin in thought. They begin in memory. Your subconscious is not logical. It doesn't speak in sentences. It doesn't explain itself. It stores patterns. Every emotional experience you've ever had, especially the early ones, was quietly recorded, not as stories, but as sensations. The tightness in your chest the first time you felt rejected, the sinking feeling when you realized love could disappear, the quiet shame of being unseen, the relief of being accepted, the fear of being abandoned. These impressions were stored without commentary, without judgment, without your permission. And now, years later, they still decide how you feel. Why emotions appear out of nowhere? Have you ever felt sad for no clear reason? Nothing went wrong. The day was ordinary. No bad news, no obvious trigger. And yet, heaviness. This is the subconscious at work. It does not operate on time. It operates on familiarity. If a tone of voice today resembles one from the past, if a silence feels like old abandonment, if a situation echoes an earlier wound, your subconscious reacts as if it's happening again. It doesn't ask, "Is this still true?" It asks only one question: have I felt this before? If the answer is yes, the emotion returns. Not because it's logical, but because it's remembered. Notice this carefully. Emotion always appears in the body first. A tightening, a heaviness, a rush of warmth, a sudden drop. Only after that does the mind create a story. I must be anxious because, I must be sad because, I must be angry because. But these explanations are retroactive. They are translations, not causes. Your subconscious sends a signal through the nervous system. Your conscious mind rushes in afterward to explain it. This is why you can't think your way out of emotion, because thought was never in charge. Your subconscious mind formed when you were most vulnerable, before language, before reasoning, before identity. It learned how to protect you when you had no defenses, so it watches constantly, scanning faces, scanning tones, scanning environments, always asking, is this safe? Is this familiar? Is this dangerous? And when it decides, your emotions respond instantly, not to reality, but to pattern. You're not emotionally overreacting. You are remembering. You're not broken. You are responding exactly as you were conditioned to respond. And tonight, as the world grows quieter and your conscious mind loosens its grip, the subconscious finally gets space to speak. That's why emotions feel stronger at night. That's why logic fades. That's why feelings surface without explanation. Because the guard has gone to sleep and the deeper mind has the flow. Chapter 2, where emotional patterns are born. Before you had beliefs, before opinions, before identity, you had feelings. And those feelings were learning how the world works. Your subconscious did not form when you were an adult. It formed when you were small. So small that you don't remember learning the lessons, but you've been living by them ever since. As a child, you didn't analyze reality. You absorbed it. You didn't ask, is this fair? Is this logical? Is this permanent? You asked something much simpler. What do I need to do to survive here? And your subconscious answered by creating emotional rules. Rules about love, rules about safety, rules about expression, rules about worth, rules that still run quietly in the background of your life. Here is the part most people never realize. Your subconscious does not learn through words. It learns through repetition paired with emotion. If something happens once, it's an experience. If it happens repeatedly, it becomes a belief. Not a conscious belief, an emotional one. For example, if love came after you performed well, your subconscious learned, I must earn love. If expressing sadness led to dismissal, your subconscious learned, my feelings are unsafe. If silence followed honesty, your subconscious learned, truth leads to abandonment. No one had to say these things out loud. Your nervous system learned them automatically. As a child, you were completely dependent. You couldn't leave, you couldn't negotiate, you couldn't rationalize. So your subconscious adapted instead. It learned how to minimize pain, how to avoid danger, how to stay connected, even if connection required silence. These adaptations were intelligent at the time. They kept you safe. But the subconscious never updates itself automatically. It keeps using the same rules, even when the environment has changed. Most adults carry invisible emotional contracts written in childhood. Contracts like, I must not upset others. I must stay quiet to stay loved. I must anticipate moods. I must be useful to be valued. I must not need too much. You didn't choose those rules consciously. They were installed when your emotional survival depended on them. And now, years later, they still shape how you feel, especially in moments of intimacy, conflict, or uncertainty. This is why telling yourself to be confident doesn't work. Confidence is not a thought, it's a nervous system state. If your subconscious learned early on that visibility equals danger, then attention will always trigger discomfort, no matter how capable you are. Your mind may say, I know I'm safe now. But your body says, this feels familiar, be careful. And the body always wins. When something triggers you, you are not reacting to the present. You are reacting to the past reactivated. The subconscious does not distinguish between then and now, memory and reality. It only knows this feels like before, so the same fear returns, the same sadness, the same tightening. Even if the situation is completely different. During the day, your conscious mind is busy. Tasks, conversations, responsibilities, distractions. But at night, the conscious mind loosens its grip. The nervous system slows. The guard goes off duty. And the subconscious finally has room to surface. That's why old feelings rise, why you suddenly feel small, why sadness feels younger than you. It's not regression, it's access. If your emotions feel intense, it doesn't mean you're fragile. It often means your subconscious learned early and learned deeply. Sensitive systems adapt fast. They notice subtle shifts. They survive complex emotional environments. What once protected you now needs understanding. Not suppression, not judgment, but awareness. Here is the truth most people never hear. Your emotional reactions are not flaws. They are records. They show you where learning happened without choice, where safety was negotiated instead of given, where love required adjustment. And once you see this, once you understand where the patterns came from, you stop fighting your emotions. You start listening to them. Chapter 3: Why the subconscious always assumes the worst. Your subconscious is not pessimistic, it is protective, and protection, in its oldest form, always leans toward fear. Your subconscious did not evolve to make you fulfilled. It evolved to keep you alive long before comfort, long before meaning, long before joy. In the ancient world, assuming danger was not anxiety, it was intelligence. If you assumed the rustle in the bushes was the wind and you were wrong, you died. If you assumed it was a predator and you were wrong, you survived. So the brain learned a rule that still runs today. When uncertain, prepare for the worst. That rule never expired. Your subconscious is constantly predicting the future, not logically, emotionally. It scans the present moment for anything that resembles past pain. A delay in a reply, a shift in tone, a moment of distance, a subtle change in energy. And the moment it finds a match, it completes the pattern. This is going to hurt. This ends badly. Something is wrong. Prepare yourself. These emotions arrive before the evidence. Fear before proof, sadness before loss, anxiety before danger. Because prediction feels safer than surprise. Most people think anxiety is about now. It isn't. Anxiety is about what might happen based on what already did. Your subconscious doesn't say, "This situation is dangerous." It says, "This reminds me of something that was," and it reacts accordingly. That tight chest, that restless mind, that looping thought, it's your subconscious rehearsing pain, so it won't be caught unprepared again. Here's something subtle but important. Your subconscious does not trust calm. If your early environment was unpredictable, if peace was often followed by chaos, if good moments ended suddenly, then stillness becomes suspicious. Silence feels loaded. Calm feels temporary. Happiness feels fragile. So your subconscious stays alert even when nothing is wrong. Not because it enjoys fear, but because it learned that calm can break without warning. Living in constant emotional anticipation has a price. You may notice difficulty relaxing, trouble trusting good moments, overthinking small changes, feeling exhausted without reason, a sense that something is off even when life is stable. This is not weakness, it is vigilance. Your subconscious has been on guard for a very long time. At night, the world quiets. No distractions, no tasks, no external signals. And without noise, prediction grows louder. The subconscious fills the silence with scenarios, replays, what ifs, imagined futures. Not because it wants to torture you, but because silence feels unsafe to a mind trained in unpredictability. So it stays awake, watching, scanning, preparing. You are not broken. You are prepared. That is the frame that changes everything. Your mind is not sabotaging you. It is protecting an older version of you. The part that didn't know how long safety would last. That part that learned to stay alert. The part that survived by assuming loss before it arrived. That part still lives inside you, still watching, still trying, still afraid to relax. Here's the quiet truth. You don't stop your subconscious from assuming the worst by arguing with it. You don't overpower it with logic. You don't silence it with force. You calm it by showing over time that safety can exist without collapse, that presence doesn't always lead to loss, that calm doesn't always end in pain, that not every silence is abandonment. This takes patience and gentleness and repetition, because the subconscious learns the same way it always has, through experience. Chapter 4: Why Emotions Always Win Over Logic. You've probably told yourself this before. I know better. I shouldn't feel this way. This doesn't make sense. And yet, the feeling stays. The reaction happens anyway. Because logic does not drive behavior, emotion does. We like to think that we decide our lives through thinking, that we weigh options, analyze outcomes, choose wisely. But neuroscience tells a different story. Decisions are made emotionally first, then justified logically afterward. Your subconscious selects an emotional direction. Your conscious mind writes the explanation. You don't choose to avoid something because it's illogical. You avoid it because it feels unsafe. You don't pursue something because it's irrational. You pursue it because it feels right. Logic is the narrator, not the author. Emotion is ancient. It existed long before language, before reasoning, before self-reflection. Your emotional brain can respond in milliseconds. Your thinking brain needs time. So when there's a conflict between the two, emotion wins. Always. This is why you can know something is safe and still feel afraid. Why you can understand a pattern and still repeat it. Why insight alone rarely creates change. The subconscious doesn't give you instructions. It gives you feelings, discomfort to stop you, fear to slow you down, numbness to keep you distant, anxiety to make you vigilant, relief to reward avoidance. These emotions act like invisible traffic signals, and most of the time you obey them without realizing it. You cancel plans not because you decided to, but because your chest felt heavy. You stay silent not because you agreed, but because speaking felt risky. You procrastinate not because you're lazy, but because starting feels threatening. This is a hard truth. What you call self-sabotage is often self-protection. If success once led to pressure, if visibility once led to criticism, if closeness once led to loss, your subconscious learned, don't go there again. So it creates emotions that pull you away: doubt, discomfort, fatigue, disinterest, not to hurt you, but to keep you safe. Willpower is a conscious effort. Emotion is automatic. That's why motivation fades, why resolutions collapse, why insight alone doesn't stick. You can force behavior for a while, but if the emotional signal underneath hasn't changed, the old pattern returns. Because the subconscious always reclaims control. At night, this becomes obvious. You are no longer doing, you are just feeling. And without tasks to distract you, the emotional layer rises to the surface. This is why clarity often comes at night, why realizations feel emotional, not logical, why truths arrive as sensations, not arguments. The subconscious speaks in feeling, and night is when you finally hear it. Here is the turning point most people miss. You don't change behavior by fighting emotion. You change behavior by changing the emotional signal underneath it. That means making safety felt, not argued, creating calm through repetition, allowing emotion instead of resisting it, letting the body learn new outcomes. When the subconscious no longer associates a situation with danger, the emotion changes. And when the emotion changes, behavior follows effortlessly. A quiet realization. You were never weak for feeling what you feel. You were responding exactly as your inner system learned to respond. And now, awareness is the first interruption. Not force, not control, but understanding. Chapter 5: How the subconscious finally learns safety. If the subconscious learned fear, it can learn safety too, but not the way you were taught. Not through force, not through willpower, not through positive thinking shouted over pain. The subconscious learns the same way it always has, through repeated emotional experience. Your subconscious does not need motivation. It needs reassurance. For years, maybe decades, it has been guarding you, scanning for danger, preparing for loss, assuming pain before it arrives. You don't undo that by telling it to calm down. You undo it by showing again and again that the world can be endured without collapse, that you can feel discomfort and survive, that closeness doesn't always end in loss, that rest doesn't lead to danger, that silence doesn't mean abandonment. Safety is not an idea, it's a felt state. The subconscious does not change in dramatic moments. It changes in quiet ones. Moments like feeling anxious and staying anyway, feeling sad and not judging yourself, feeling fear and choosing gentleness, feeling triggered and breathing through it, feeling exposed and discovering nothing breaks. Each time this happens, the subconscious updates its map. Not quickly, not loudly, but permanently. Compassion is not softness, it is regulation. When you meet an emotion without attack, without trying to fix it, without calling it wrong, you send a powerful signal inward. We are not in danger. That signal matters more than any affirmation because your subconscious listens to how you treat yourself more than what you say. Many people try to heal by pushing. They analyze, they over understand, they pressure themselves to move on. But pressure feels like threat to the subconscious, and threat strengthens old defenses. This is why true healing often feels slower but calmer. It feels like softening, not conquering, like loosening, not breaking through. Remember this. The reason emotions surface at night is not because you're weak. It's because your system finally feels quiet enough to speak. Night removes distraction, removes performance, removes urgency. And in that space, your subconscious asks, is it safe to be honest now? Each time you sit with your feelings without running, without numbing, without judgment, you are teaching safety. Imagine this shift. Instead of asking, why do I feel this way? You ask, what is this feeling trying to protect? Instead of resisting, you listen. Instead of fighting, you stay. This alone begins to change the emotional pattern because the subconscious relaxes when it is heard. Emotional freedom does not mean never feeling fear or sadness or anxiety. It means those feelings pass through you instead of running you. It feels like emotions rising, then settling, thoughts losing their grip, calm lasting longer, fear arriving softer, trust returning gradually, not dramatic, not constant, but real. Your subconscious is not your enemy. It has been trying to keep you alive with outdated instructions. And now, gently, patiently, you are teaching it something new. That you are older now. That you have choices. That safety can exist without vigilance. That rest is allowed. That you are not alone inside yourself. Tonight, you don't need to fix anything. Just notice. Notice that you stayed, that you listened, that you didn't run from your inner world. That alone is enough for now. You're not controlled by your subconscious. You are in relationship with it. And every moment of gentleness is rewriting something old. Sleep now. Let your mind rest. It has carried enough.